And good morning. Good morning, my beautiful family. It is so good to be back with you again on this Thursday. We are on day 2 of our wrap up of the 21-day release devotional. Before I start, I see your good mornings, and I will absolutely make sure that I acknowledge you all and get to you all in that regard. I just want to take a moment out before we get started. Make sure that I acknowledge you. I wanted to just make sure our Periscope people were good. Facebook, love you. Thank you for sharing this across your platforms. YouTube, I see you. And Periscope, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is another one you'll want to share. I want to just speak to a place where we are in our collective hearts and minds right now. We're angry. Many of us are fearful. Many of us are frustrated. Many of us are sad, numb. You run the gambit of emotions. George Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, the Central Park woman who calls 911 on an African American who's just bird watching. The man in Minnesota who claims he's being threatened by 3 Black entrepreneurs in their own gym. These things mount up, and I've been through the news feeds, and I've seen positive conversations, and I've seen not so positive conversations. I've seen us really processing. We're all trying to process where we are in this. And so I couldn't rest. I actually had another topic for today's 1:00 show, and I decided to scrap that and just give us a space and place to process this. And I'm not going to do it by myself. So I want you to join me at 1:00 when we talk about coping in traumatic times. Dr. Jamel Rogers, a psychologist from San Diego, will be joining me. Kenny Anderson, who is a multicultural affairs officer and national certified mental health counselor, will be joining me. My pastor, the Reverend Dr. Patrick Claiborne, will be joining me from the spiritual bent. We're gonna have this discussion about how to cope. I don't even know, forgiveness and togetherness, and that we can't even get to any of all of that till we figure out how we gonna cope. Right? Step 1. Let's not run through the steps. We're going to start at step 1, and we're going to figure out how to cope. It's a important discussion, because when people are not feeling like they're heard, they're going to yell. When people aren't feeling like they're heard, when they're yelling, they're going to scream. And when people don't feel like you hear them screaming, they're going to act out, and we're seeing it. And we're seeing it not only at Targets and the Wendy's and we're seeing it on Facebook, we're seeing it on YouTube, we're seeing it on Periscope, we're seeing it on Twitter, we're seeing it on Instagram. And we have to be a part of what puts a stopgap in that. All right. So I hope that you will join me. All right. Breathe in with me. Breathe out with me. I love y'all. Now we're going to shift. Good morning, loves. I see you. I see you. I see you. Good morning, my sister. I see y'all. Good morning. Thank you. I see you, Neil. Good morning. Good morning. We started this 21-day journey, and what a journey it was. You all will see. I'm about to roll a video for you because I just want to, I think you should do markers of reflection when you get to spaces and places that means something to you, and this definitely meant something to me. I hope that it will always remain in your mind that way. I'm going to take all of these teachings and all of these broadcasts and put them on their own page, the 21-day devotional, so that you can use them as a resource and tool. When you want to go back and you want to hear what did that sister Narisha say? What was it that Regina Clay was talking about? I need to go back and see what Creslin's Kelly Ellis was talking about. I know Stephanie that said that one thing, and I wrote half of it, but I was so busy, Toya was laying it down. What was she talking about? That girl just saying that she was praying up and preaching stuff. I need to hear. What was Dr. Mingo saying? Alicia really made my spirit feel at peace and calm. And Reverend Riri, oh my God, you can go back now and you can go through them. Take your time. If you want to, get the book. You can write in it. It's for you to write it, and it's an action journal. Share the broadcast with friends. I'm telling you, don't just sit on your level of freedom, because freedom is when you get free and then you turn around, you grab somebody else and you help them get free, right? So that's what we're going to do. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a little video with you, and we're going to take a look back, a small look back. Y'all, there was so much stuff I could have pulled into this, so forgive me, I couldn't capture all the moments, but I did my best to try to give us a reflective look back at what was the 21 days of release in the journey in this devotional. Here we go. Hello, my broadcast people, all my Periscope peeps. It's your girl, Jeanette, certified life strategist and mindset coach. And I'm coming to you with a 21-day devotional. We're starting today. Yay! We're starting today. Today is the day. Why today? Why not today? Why not today? Today is a great day to start. Today is a great day to start. Today is a great day to start.
Thing is always to grab people up and just let them feel love, let them feel just a general heart expression of, I know you got some issues, but I'm gonna love you through them, or I know you're mean, but I'm gonna love you so much you're gonna forget that you even mean.
And now, even through this pandemic, you've been equipped. You were equipped before, but you're even more so equipped now. And he said, I hear, don't be afraid of this technology, and don't be afraid of the tools that are out there.
What makes me laugh about this picture? There's a long story behind this photo.
Let me tell you though what gives me such joy about this picture. Let me tell you what gives me joy, girl. Let me tell you what gives me joy.
Tears are
girl, I know. I got a dab too. I got a dab too. Let me tell you what gives me joy though. Let me tell you what gives me
the story behind that photo.
God, we thank you for being with us today. We thank you because you already told us you would never leave us nor forsake us. And for even walking with us through this 21-day journey, we thank you. We thank you for what we've discovered about ourselves. We thank you for what we've faced about ourselves in order that we would be able to fix some things that we can be used for your glory. So now, God, for each person that's been vulnerable, even if it was just with themselves, even if it's just between you and them, even if they didn't type anything in, God, we pray that you meet them where they are. And for those who have been vulnerable enough to type it in, to say it out loud, God, let us feel the fullness of your presence, that we would be able to release unto you, that we would not carry it, that we would not sit still thinking it's our baggage to carry, but that we would cast our cares upon you because you care for us. And so, God, we now release what's been keeping us stuck. We release what in the past we've been afraid to let go of. We release it now unto you. We're letting it go.
Thank you, God.
We're opening our hands and letting it go. We're letting it go so that you can take our hands, fill our hands with what it is you have for us.
Yes.
We trust you.
Yes, God.
We may not trust every person, but we trust you.
Yeah.
And we trust what you've given to us in this time. We release.
I love that. We release. We release. We release, we release. And today we're going to continue the release. I'm glad you love that. I'm glad y'all are enjoying that. Yes, blessings and divine favor to everyone. Yes, so would you all help me welcome the fantastic women of God, the Justice League of my life, the Women's Justice League. Please welcome all the fabulous women. Please unmute yourselves and go ahead so you can say good morning to everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good. Yes. We are all here. So we're going to jump right into it. And I want to start with, we went through some of your other cohorts that were with us yesterday. So we're going to start with change isn't change until you change. Change is a change till you can. And I have to give credit where credit is due. I got that from when I was working with Toya at World Changers Church International in Atlanta, Georgia. Change was the platform. And that just stuck with me. Change isn't really change until you what? Change. Yes. Sister Justina, why was that the topic that really stood out to you that you really wanted to dive into?
Because I'm currently in a season of change and some major changes that even started before COVID. I never expected it, but it happened, and they've been major changes, and God has been speaking and he's been working, and he's just shown himself to me in a brand new way. And I have faith now on a brand new level. So I'm excited about that. Change isn't change until you change, no matter what your age is, your experience is, no matter what it is, you must change.
Absolutely. So when we got into it, were there any ahas for you? Any takeaways, any zigs when you thought we were going to zag, so to speak?
I think some of them, I expected it on some level, but I really was very encouraged by a lot of the things that people were writing in, and the fact that people were in the same place. You know, a lot of times you think that you're in this change by yourself, but there were people who were saying, yeah, I'm in that change too. And even people I had talked to afterwards about what the topic was, they were like, yeah, I'm in a major change. And it really, COVID is kind of the background music to what's going on in our lives. And I said in mine and in those people too, it's the background music, because yes, there's COVID, but I don't know, maybe this was the thing that slowed us down so that we could recognize the change that was happening, or recognize even the need for change. And I just thought it was me, I really did. But then I was very surprised that it wasn't as men, women, young, old, jobs, relationships, personal walks with the Lord, physical things. There was so much change. You know, that's what was surprising to me.
It was. And I'll tell you, change for us as a mindset coach, change is one of the hardest things for us to deal with, right? I shared with you in that setting that, you know, the Holy Spirit spoke to me the night before a huge change and said, you know, making change is never as difficult as accepting it. And I thought, I don't know what you're talking about until the next morning. And then bam, I was like, oh, this is what you were talking about.
Right.
And I think, you know, that was the one thing that came out of our discussion. It just, you know, and I know it's the Holy Spirit because I'm just not that smart. That once we accept that things are going to be different, when we accept that they're not going to be, even life, when we come out of COVID, you know, you talked about COVID, when we come out of COVID, it's not going to be the same. There will be things that are similar, but it's not going to be the same. And so I appreciate that you brought, because you had just made a job change, you brought all of that transparency and vulnerability to the discussion. And I know that that people were blessed by it. And so I just want to thank you again for what you did to breathe life into that topic in this 21 days.
I thank you because it blessed me, because I to publicly say it was even very, very helpful to me, because there was a lot that I wasn't saying publicly because I was kind of like, oh my goodness, God, what am I doing? Oh, what am I doing? But even to publicly say it strengthened me and strengthened other people. So now I'm just telling everybody, guess what God did? Guess what he did? So I'm encouraging everybody to make that change, a career change after 50. You know, it's scary
yes.
when you've had success. And it's like, why did I need to change? God, I was successful. But God's like, no. And now that I'm, as a matter of fact, tomorrow will be 1 month in this new position. And it's awesome. I thank God. So I encourage, if God is telling you to change, please do it. People don't understand, because people were kind of looking at me like, oh my goodness.
Right.
And then COVID happened, because
Right.
they were like, oh my goodness, you did all of this, and now what's now? But guess what? God will provide. My mama used to say, surely the Lord will provide.
All right.
And
all
so
right.
now I'm my mama.
Surely God will provide. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sister Jacinta. Our topic after that was one that was near and dear to me and still is, as I continue to learn and grow in depths of it. We were talking about that superpower of mindfulness. And for this one, it was my sister, the Reverend Regina Clay, that said, ooh, that's me. Tag me in, coach, tag me in. So speak on this subject of mindfulness and where it met you, because we've already ministered the topic to people, but where did it meet you when we did this walk together?
Thank you so much. Where it met me, there were still some things that I needed to do in terms of my mindset.
Yeah.
In terms of changing my behaviors. And this really helped me to begin to not begin, but to continue and go even further in terms of my mindfulness. I've done mindfulness work for quite a while, but there's always more to do. And that's what this really focused on for me.
What's the sticky part for you? Because I think all of us have that thing. We have several testimonies of women who picked a topic and then they realize, oh, this is actually an area where I need to work on, or the process of doing it became a thing. So what's the sticky place? What are the places where you say, you know what, I still got growing edges there?
The sticky place for me was consistency and habit. Habit. And we talk about where we are in the pandemic. In some ways, it made me lazy. I wanted to sleep in. Or I took a nap in the middle of the day, or whatever it was. But I had to get back in my habit of, meditating in the morning, reading, scripting, writing, all of those things before 8 o'clock, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that has absolutely, and it's really after I shared that I started to do that again.
Wow. That's awesome.
Because I knew that there was a greater place that I needed to go.
That's great.
So.
That's awesome. I appreciate that so much. And, I'm even thinking about now with all that's going on, how important mindfulness really is going to be for us all. I'm not saying don't pay attention to what's happened, but to keep checking in with the present, to anchor ourselves in the present, because that trauma thing can pull us left, right, front, back to back. And we're going to stay reactionary if we don't anchor ourselves in what we know and who we know and stay present. So I think this whole thing of mindfulness, and I know that those of you, the viewers really were like, there are a couple of topics we want you to do again. And I am going to do them again. I won't do them in this way, but I will do them again on a different show in a different way. So I don't want you all to think I didn't hear you, but this will be one that we go back and revisit, because people are just still trying to get their legs on it. You know,
and can I give you a transparent moment from yesterday?
Absolutely.
Yesterday, I did not do, I did my mindfulness habits in the morning, but I didn't walk, which is what I normally do. And the events of the day started to, and the social media and the news started to overtake me. I mean, I literally, and I was like, I'm going for a walk. And if anybody saw me on Facebook, I went live because I was like, ooh, I have to do that. So I had to do that for myself because I found myself getting carried away.
But I saw your live. I saw your live, and what I liked about it was that sometimes walking and exercise helps us process better, because we're releasing a bunch of those fight or flight endorphins anyway, all those chemicals, and so it's almost it felt cathartic. It didn't feel like an angry woman walk and I'm just gonna spew on everybody. You know what I mean? Like, it felt cathartic. So I appreciate that you shared in that responsible way. So I thank you for that, Regina. Thank you so much. So then we moved on to our next topic. And our next topic was one of those that, you know, you could go, oh, that's just, you just stuck it in there for that old Christianese, you know, be encouraged, just, you know, like, and I honestly, and I still laugh because when I look at this, you all know this, but I do all my own graphics for all this stuff. So I was looking for very important visuals for each one, and I found this one that it said, good job, you rock, well done, thumbs up, you're the man. I was like, really, we're here again? So I scratched it out, like, you're the woman, right? Way to go. But then my sister, who, you have to know, her platform is all about empowerment. We met when I was in Huntsville, and she was in Huntsville at the time, talking about empowerment. She allowed me, when I first got my wings as a coach, to even be a part of her conference about empowerment. And when I thought of her, because here's how God works, she had gone on a sabbatical from social media. She's like, I'm out. Boop. And I respected that at the beginning of COVID, because you got to know what you got to hear God, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but then her name kept coming up in my spirit, and I'm like, so you want me to ask her to come on social media when she's on the break? But like, I don't want her to be like, girl, I said, but I said, listen, as the Lord leads you, I don't know if this is what this season. And she said she would, and I'm so grateful. Dr. Kreslin Kelly, thank you for taking on this topic. Share some of, because you had some very transparent shares about, and I didn't put them together because we had done your podcast, I reminded you, the week before. And I went back and listened to it. And I said, oh my God, I didn't even, God told me to extend this to her, forgetting what you had said. Would you share with the women and with our audience that connection?
Yeah, I'm rubbing my eyes because I'm actually in tears, just hearing how everybody ended up speaking on a topic that they didn't realize that they needed for themselves, because that was my same experience. And on that podcast, prior to our conversation, that was the first time I publicly admitted that I suffered from discouragement. I didn't have a name for it. I knew I wasn't necessarily depressed, and I'm not discouraged because I am God's child. I suffer from discouragement. So when I saw the list that you sent, there were only a few left, and be encouraged. I was like, oh, I can do that, and I didn't put the two together either, but God put it together because he knew that I needed to speak on that. And by nature, in my fleshly nature, I am an overachiever. I'm a perfectionist. I go hard in the paint, but in my spirit, and in the spiritual growth that God has allowed me to have, I learned that I am enough. There is nothing to go after. There is nothing to conquer. I just need to be mindful and be guided and be in a flow. But to do that, because we're wrestling, that with that spirit man and that fleshly man, I have to practice encouraging myself. Yes. And so that was the perfect topic for me, is to encourage myself through those fleshly moments where I am overachieving, or I feel like I have something to prove, or, all these, it served me well. And this is what God revealed to me a couple of years ago is, yes, those things served you well. And those things probably even saved your life then, but today they'll kill you.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. First of all, just thank you. Big ups, sis, because, there are sisters, and there's no heat and no judgment on it, but that would not feel the release to be able to share at that level, because I am a doctor, because I am a life coach, because I am this and that, because my platform is empowerment. I feel like I can't share, but you laid it all out. And so kudos and thank you. I'm going to even give you the little Zoom clap, clap, clap. Last thing before I let you go on this point. How do you, because we're often called to do this, how do you minister to others that thing that you need? What are the tools? How do you do it?
I think we all do it. I think we give people what it is we need without even realizing it. So I empower because that's important for me.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. Didn't realize that I encourage people and I uplift people because that's what I need. And so all of this has been recent revelation. But this one thing I know, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. I can stand anywhere and rattle off a bunch of statistics, research. There are no telling how many books I have in my head. But if I'm not coming from my heart, people won't remember or even care what I said.
Yeah. Come on now.
And so I just come from that place, from humanity. And that's what we're all human. And no matter what things appear to separate us, we are one.
Amen.
And so I go in oneness.
Amen. I love it.
I go in oneness.
I love it. You're just a beautiful spirit. All of you are. Aren't you all glad we're all just connected? God just knows what he's doing. He hooked up good stuff. We moved out of that and we went through, because the book in my mind takes us on a journey. So we came out of, got gratitude, be encouraged with Crescent, live out of the pressure cooker. We talked about that yesterday, to do or not to do, eliminating busyness as crossing it off of our spiritual gifts list because it's not there. And then we moved into hard conversations. And this one for me was one of those, it was kind of a double-edged sword, because in my life, I started out as somebody who, it was hard for me to have hard conversations, to be honest. I told the joke that my line name when I was pledging was soft-hearted, and I will still cry sometimes. Got a little hard edges coming through news, but I will still drop some tears at the drop of a hat. But learning to have hard conversations was something that I really had to work on. And I find that it's a tool that many of us in our adult age and many of us in different, occupations and vocations have not managed. I even shared stats that day about, I think it was like 56% of bosses or CEOs and corporate leaders, they find it hard to have straight and honest conversations with the people they lead. We know that happens in the church too. So there you go. And my sister stepped up to the plate, she's like, ooh, she jumped for that one. Toya Ignatius, come on in, sis. I know what you told me why you wanted to take this topic, but share with the group and share with our viewers, and then share what, ahas or anything that may have happened for you through the experience and after.
Oh man, it was amazing, the conversation, because it's just like anything. You go in and you think this is how it's going to go and this is what I'm going to say, and then once all the collective mindsets and spirit get into the conversation, it starts to unfold. But going into it, I think you described it as I'm typically one of those people who likes to play in the dirt anyway. Yes. So I like the adverse side of the conversation. I like the hard parts. Yes. I like fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. I like speaking truths that people don't typically want to speak to. That's kind of my wheelhouse. So when I saw hard conversations, it was like, well, that's me, you know. But even in the midst of that, I think me learning, even while doing that, the parts of hard conversations that I had taken for granted, I still needed to grow and develop in.
What parts? Give us as an example.
For example, just the technicality of it, not going into conversations with a preconceived notion about this is what happened, this is what you said, this is what you did, and having your mind so set on I'm going to go and I'm going to tell them and just give them a piece of my mind without considering all sides.
Right.
I think at that time, too, I mentioned, you know, that the country, and at that time, and this was over a week ago, the country is in the midst of a very hard conversation.
Right.
And a week removed from that, it is intensified.
Right.
You know what I mean? So in the last 10 days, we've had several instances on top of where it's time to have hard conversations. And that was another motivation for me in taking that topic. How do we approach the fact that we have to be honest and we have to address things that have been undercover that we haven't said, you know, and then even looking at our social media platforms, I think it was Ms. Clay who said, you know, she was consumed yesterday on social media and all the content and things people are putting out and saying, but then you feel a sense of responsibility to speak, say, to emote. What does that look like? And Jeanette, thank you so much for the platform because you walk through steps on having tough conversations and things to do and things to consider. So even as we are emoting online or addressing things that affect us online, going through those steps are key to being received and actually making a step toward actual change. You know, and that's personally, that's professionally, you know, in all facets of life, we all have to confront. There's always going to be that place where we have to step up into something that's hard. You know, and deal, you know, and so having these tools, not just for the conversation that I had, the 21-day journey is about equipment and tools. And having the tools to do the hard things or to overcome the hard spots or to get past, you know, what may be difficult. So thank you so much for that. It was amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you, if you all remember, this was one of those topics that you all said, oh, we got to do part 2 on this. Like everybody was like, we gotta get back in and dig back in this. And this is absolutely one that we are going to do that with. Because I realized even we were having that talk. Let me share. She said, you like digging in the dirt. I told her I like digging in the dirt too. I had to balance myself because you know that thing when you've been the soft-hearted and the underdog and then you get these new tools and you're like, now I'm gonna get everybody. I'm going to swing my blade of truth on everybody and they're going to get in line and nobody's going to be defeated, you know, like, so I have to come back and listen. I'm looking at Reverend Riri right now because now I'm thinking, I think I just had an aha moment for myself. I think it stems from my childhood. I think it's little Billy. I think it's little Billy. I don't know if I told y'all this story, but when I was small, like 3 or 4, I had a little Caucasian friend named Billy, and we lived in Colorado Springs, and we played together. And for whatever reason, at one point, Billy decided to hit me. And this was like, you know, the first time something negative happens to you, you're a child, you don't even know, like, what is that? What is, right? So I ran to my parents and I'm crying and I'm like, I didn't understand emotionally. Why would you hit me? You're my friend. And then, ow, this hurts. What are you doing? And so my dad had that conversation with me, very metered man, very, you know, loving man, but a military man. He said, baby, you have to protect yourself. Sometimes in life, people will be mean. And so if somebody, you never start a fight, you never start a fight. But if somebody ever hits you, now y'all don't send me no judgment stuff. I don't even want to hear it. I will shut you down. I will shut it down. Right. But baby, if somebody hits you, now we talking about 1969, so y'all back all the way up. You ball up your fist and you hit them back, and they'll back off of you. They won't, And I said, "Oh, just ball up." He said, "You ball up your fist." And my parents say, I in that moment balled up my fist, walked out the door with my fist balled up, and went and found Billy and just gave it back to him. And I think that's I think it's so symbolic now, Toya, that I'm talking to you. I'm like, that's where that came from. Like, and when you get a new tool, right? And you're like, I can have justice. I can right this wrong. I can make this better. I'm going to use it right now. So I want to say to you all watching, get the tools, but wait and operate and get them and use them with wisdom. Operate in wisdom. Don't just take your tongue and go lash it out because you've been built up for 35 years. And now you got this new tool and you can she turned the other cheek long enough to get momentum. Come on, brother. You're preaching good right there. So yes. So I want you to get the tools, but you got to use wisdom, right? So thank you, Toya, for that. And thank you for the chuckle. You just gave me an aha. I just dug deep and found some connections in my own self. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to our next topic. So we came out of hard conversations and we moved into a topic that actually I had been ministering, but from a different perspective for women's conferences and things like that. I called it dirt work. If I ever came to preach or do like a keynote, I called it dirt work because I used the analogy of a seed being buried, right? And when I was talking to a young lady before we got to this, she was telling me, she had moved and all these different things that had happened. And in the end, she just felt like she was cast away because the relationships she used to have were no longer there. She'd moved, her job was there, all these things. And I said, baby, you're covered. You're not cast away. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to write about this in the devotional and I'm going to pray over it that it blesses you and all of those like you who feel that way. And so we took it from that vantage point, and jumping into to help me with that was two dynamic women. It was supposed to be just Pastor Stephanie Atkins in the beginning, but because of a scheduling thing with Alicia Redmond's schedule, I knew she was supposed to be a part of this, and I didn't want Pastor Stephanie to feel slighted, but I knew that for some reason God was shifting things for some reason. These ding dang girls got together and they had so much more in common than I even realized when I had even asked them to do this together. So Pastor Stephanie Atkins, Alicia Redmond, let's talk about, first of all, what we discovered that was the similarity about you. Now, here's what's funny. I'm going to start in another thing that's a similarity about you. It continues. The synchronicity amongst you continues. Alicia just celebrated her birthday yesterday. Yay! Happy birthday, Alicia.
Happy birthday.
Yes. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Happy 21st birthday. And yes. And then Pastor Stephanie Atkins today is celebrating another level of her matriculation and her education level. Tell us what you've done.
I've completed my Master in Fine Arts in Nonfiction Writing at Goucher College. So yeah.
Congratulations.
And I've got my celebratory cupcake right here because she was sweet enough to do the drive-by and celebrate. So you all are, it's just amazing to me. Both of you are celebrating markers of next levelness in your life. Now, let's go back to the other commonalities we found out that you had. You're both liturgical dancers.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Both preaching women. All right, now let's get to the topic. Covered, not cast away. Pastor Stephanie, what did this mean for you? You were drawn to it first. What was it about this topic that you wanted to really lean in on?
I wanted to lean in on my own personal insecurities, about feeling cast away and not taking the value in being covered. And in that process, of course, I was more transparent, more emotional than I anticipated being on live. But it just happened. And I think that for me, it was an opportunity to hear myself, live in my reality, and put it in front of me and in front of everybody else, for me to come to terms and come to grips with what it means to really be covered and what work God is doing in and through us when we are covered. And so it allowed me to just sit in the season that I'm in, knowing that on the other side of this germination process, what evolves will be to his glory. So it was a little more transparent than I anticipated, but it was good dirt work. It was good dirt.
Yes, because anytime, y'all have to understand, pastors are people too.
Right.
Leaders, CEOs, no matter what you are, ministry leaders, and all of these women are leading something, but they're people too. And it costs us something to get up and talk about, because we know the only way we say, as in the Christian faith, and shout out to everybody of other beliefs, y'all always come and meet me right where you understand God. But in the Christian faith, we understand it's the blood of Jesus and our testimonies. It can't be fake-amonies. Like, it's got to be the real thing. And so, but we say that like, yes, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, but that will cost you something.
Oh yeah.
And so for you to speak transparently about that, I think is another level of healing, not only for you, but also another level of healing for other women, because I'm convinced that there were people that were watching. They might not type in those comments. We might not even know they were watching, but they're watching, they're listening, and they're seeing. So kudos to you for that. And Alicia, we scheduled it, we figured it out. This one was the fit. And then what happened when you jumped in on the bandwagon?
Well, just the whole topic of being covered. I have felt, that covered, really being buried.
Right. Yeah.
It feels like, God, I am buried. And when am I ever going to come out? When am I ever going to, you have all of these words that people have given you and dreams and visions, but and the thing is, we have to hold on to trusting God. So, just the whole thing is a process of whatever seeds, those negative seeds that's been planted within us, and uprooting those things. So, it's all a process. And so I personally have felt like I've been through this process of being buried, but now it really is time to push through that dirt. And, just what I got out of it was God really saying to me, you cannot allow, what you've been buried in to stop you from pushing through, because it's my time for you to push through now. So now you've got to go forward. You've got to, gain that momentum. You've got to do the things that I'm telling you. Got to be obedient and do the things I'm telling you to do so that you can reach that promise, and that destiny. But, when you're buried, you feel the isolation, you feel the loneliness, you feel, all these different things. And you feel like, even family not understanding what you're going through and why you're doing what you're doing and being misunderstood.
Come on.
And so you gotta even learn to endure all of that and be strengthened in all of that and still say, God, I trust you. I'm still gonna follow you. I'm still gonna, and because in time, in his time, they will see it. He will be glorified through you.
Yes.
And so, amen.
Amen.
I just, I thank you for the the theme, the whole release, you know, I just feel the release. I feel like, you know, I'm encouraged that it is my time to push through that dirt.
Yeah, come on, girl.
Come on.
Look, bend your back. Bend your back and come on up, girl. Bend your back and come on up.
Exactly.
Let me ask now, because I know, Narisha, you had to go. Should we go ahead and take yours now? Because I don't want you not to be able to speak to your topic.
That would be great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Let's jump over, and we're going to come back to the power of surrender. Narisha joined me. The topic was "You Are Not Enough." The backdrop for the purpose of this show was that, or "You Are Enough." The backdrop of this was Narisha and I hadn't talked in 10 years.
Yeah.
We stayed in touch through social media. So the reason y'all like, why you put that part in the video where y'all just laugh uncontrollably for way too long, is because it really ministered to me. It really ministered to me. I had not talked to this sister in 10 years. We had gone through quite an ordeal, and we never kind of processed it out with one another, our respective perspectives, right? And so to pull up a picture, and I'm just thinking I'm going to show pictures of us having worked together and stuff we did together. But when I pulled that picture up, the reaction that we had, it kind of caught me off guard, because because I was afraid. I was like, oh no, is she like, oh my gosh, she's gonna pull this picture? But we both, the laughing, and what I want y'all to get out of this is sometimes, oh Jesus, sometimes the places that caused you pain, the places that broke you down, the places that made you cry, God will restore you. And those same places, those same pictures, those same things, you will have joy. And it is the release, and it is the healing, and it is being in a place of freedom. That same picture that once might have caused pain, or the joy. I can't even, girl, take it. I got the dab for different reasons.
Listen, I forgot to bring my Kleenex, so I'm trying to keep it together. But it's so true, because I think that laughter represented a whole conversation.
It really did. It really did.
That probably needed to happen and no longer needs to happen. It was just, that era that we worked together, but it had nothing to do with you. But God was like, no, you're not going to go into 2020 still holding on to this. And I'm like, I'm not. He's like, no, you are. But the topic that you and I discussed, being You Are Enough, it really tied back to even just some issues that I dealt with 10 years ago. And gradually God has been healing me and allowing me to see my enoughness. But I can't say that I'm 100% all the time. I'm always going to be challenged as we grow, and as we're challenged to do new things and new environments. That enoughness level is always going to be one of these things that are constantly moving up and down, and it's graduating and it's increasing and decreasing. And so, for me, it's just reminding myself who I am. It's not about my accomplishments. It's not about the goals that I set that maybe I did not accomplish or complete. It's not about the number of likes on social media and all of these other things that we can measure up our enoughness to. It's about just being a daughter of the Most High God and knowing that my identity rests in Him. And when He called me here, when He said, before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. And He decided that this was the time I needed to be in the earth. I say, grace this presence of the earth with the godliness in me. That's enough right there if you think about it. And so all of those other things are just things that we get to do.
Yeah.
We get to do those things. It's not what defines who we are. It's not part of our identity, but our identity rests in who he is. And that alone for me it heals me, because that makes me enough.
Yes. And let me just say, because me and my Holy Spirit MacGyverness, some stuff was happening, and they were like, "We can't see you. What are you?" Let me just say, I was saying that the things that in your past have caused you pain will be the same things that bring you joy. And I love how you said, Narisha, that laughter that went on for so long was really a conversation of healing. I got to write that down. That's good. Laughter, the conversation of healing. That is exactly what it was. And I want to say to you, Narisha, where are you, Narisha? Come back, say something.
I'm right here.
Okay.
You can't see me?
Yeah, no, I see. I wanted you big. I thank you, because layer number whatever deeper in this is that some of the was between she and I.
Yeah.
No heat, no blame, no, I own mine. I'm sure she takes hers. But when you understand that part of what you're dealing with, you have to take responsibility for it yourself.
Yeah.
Now you look at that conversation of laughter and you really understand that at a spirit level, there was so much being said and so much being shared and so much being done. And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I was like, I knew if we never had that conversation, we'd be cool, because I could just feel in the spirit that we both were, that was whatever we were in. Okay, we're going next, but there's a deeper level of understanding now that I think that I can appreciate. And for that, love.
Same to you. I echo those sentiments. For me, it was, like you said it perfectly. We would have been cool without that. But for me, it was just like flushing the toilet, and it's kind of nasty. But it was like, now it's that literal. You can alleviate yourself from something, but not fully release it.
Woo, come on.
And that was the release.
I got to give you some Zoom claps on that, girl. You was doing that. Thank you. I know you've got to go to your job, but we appreciate you and love you. Thank you so much for this.
I love you.
This won't be the last time you see her. I'm sure God's going to hook up some stuff, and we'll see you again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, ladies. Bye-bye. Man, that blessed my spirit. It really did. And I do that because what I need for you all as viewers, and even as our panelists, to understand is like the level of freedom that I operate in now, because of understanding the importance of release. You all remember that I told you this whole thing was birthed out of me trying to figure out and understand this cancer growing in my body. And when I realized I can't do stress, I can't do that. And when you start unpacking what stress is attached to fear, stress is attached to lies, stress is attached to low-level thinking, stress is attached to so many things that you really have to call a thing, like our Auntie Iyanla will tell you, call a thing. And so, even in that moment, I wanted you all to understand, it wasn't just that we were comrades fighting a common something that was going on. We were not sometimes on the same page ourselves. And so isn't it beautiful to see sisters that work through the process and come back to a place of purpose and just keep it moving, and laugh, have the conversation through laughter. Angela says, I'm getting chills behind this expression of healing and growth between you two beautiful women, seriously wanting to shout because it represents something greater. Yes, I'm a shout with you. Oh my God. Absolutely. I even feel like right now, for what we're going through, I just feel like people would feel better if they would just shout, like if they would just let it out and shout. That, yes. Come on, Peggy. That's what I'm talking. Yeah, I see you, Reverend Stephanie. Yes. If y'all don't know about the yes, The first one is for you. The second one is for your sisters and brothers around you so they can confirm. That should teach us as a community how to do the same. That's the prayer, brother. That's the prayer. We're going to go back now to another topic that really was the undergirding topic for, even being able to get to the place of you are enoughness. And that is being able to understand the power of surrender. Right? The power of surrender. You can't have a hard conversation. You can't even think you're enough until you surrender all your ideas, all your ego, all that other stuff that keeps you thinking something different. And for this one, my sister, Reverend Riri, came back and said, I got the perfect person to join in this conversation. And I was like, well, who is it? Let me know. And there she is, the Reverend Dr. Anne-Marie Mingo. And I was so glad to make her acquaintance. So glad that we now are in fellowship around this mission and purpose. But what was the process for you? Because you came in a little differently. You didn't get to kind of pick. You kind of came in and it was picked for you. But talk a little bit about the process for you.
So the process was a part of this very process, right? The process of surrendering. Because as you know, and as those who were able to watch that, what are we calling them? Episodes, that day, yep. That discussion, I got a call and was on the phone at about 11 o'clock, literally the night before this was going to happen. Yeah. I did not know Jeanette, was not familiar with this 21-day process, had no clue about any of this. Bless your heart. Right. I was just like, wait, so who the what and when? The who the what? I was like, is it video? Oh, hold on now. So all getting to the yes was a part of my process of surrendering. Because one of my first things was that, but that's not what I do. I don't talk about surrender. That's not what I do. And then I told Reverend Patrick and Reverend Cherie, my good friends, give me a moment, let me take a little time and I will call you back. And in that time, God was like, yeah, but that stuff that I gave you about a week ago, those were the seeds that you planted that have become very fast fruit. Right. So seeds have different times of germination, right, within the process. Some of them can come up within a matter of days. Some seeds may take years. This was a fast fruit. And God reminded me that also within the fruit from the seed that I had literally just planted a week before contained more seeds that needed to go out. And so God was like, this is what you just have to do. So I was like, oh, Lord, here we go. So I guess I'm talking about surrender with the sister that I'm about to meet tomorrow morning when I get ready to do this. So it was and continues to be a part of a process that I'm on. Yeah. One that I didn't realize I was starting to hold on to things again and beginning to limit myself in ways again by saying, that's not what I do. Right. That was a limiting belief in the first place. Yeah. God was, you've already been doing it. And in the process of describing my journey, when you're like, how do you get to where you are? In the process of describing that journey, you see all of these moments of surrender, right? These moments where the surrender for me is trust. Yeah. And these moments when I just had to trust that the process was working, even if it didn't make sense to others. So it's been powerful. And I would say, like, one of the aha moments, in a sense, that came up in the midst of the discussion was when I started talking about the faith muscle, right? And that you have your faith muscle memory. Yeah. And so I had to tap into that even now in the midst of all of the stuff that's starting to come on. I'm like, hold on. Yeah. We can do this. Trust God within this process because we can do this. It's not just me, it's the we. Yeah. We can do this.
Absolutely. That was beautiful. And what I was thankful for was that even in the process, you not knowing me, there were times you was like, well, what if we do it like this? What if we do it like that? And I was like, part of me wanted to, because I felt responsible for the position you were being put in, doing this at the last minute. Part of me wanted to acquiesce and go, okay, we can do that. But it didn't resonate as the direction we needed to go. And I had to surrender, right, my low-key fear or apprehension because you are friends of friends. Y'all ever been in that situation where you're working with friends of friends and everybody's tiptoeing around on eggshells because don't nobody want nobody's feelings to get hurt, and you're like, And so I had to surrender and trust God. If you called her into this process, the process was established.
Yeah, she'll
get it. Let me make sure I deliver it with the right tools and things. And we were able to put, and she did. And she was like, okay, no, that's cool. We'll flow it this way. And so thank you for the surrender even then, in that morning about how we were going to do it and the logistics and all of that. And so, so just know the surrender went back and forth. I think we skip over this step in our day-to-day life, that there are always these moments of surrender. And because we're not mindful, because we don't practice mindfulness in intentional ways, sometimes we may miss them, but they're always there. And so for me, Reverend Dr. Anne Marie Mingo, the thing that
I'm good with just Anne Marie.
Okay,
really
Anne Marie. The thing that I am grateful for is that you felt the awkwardness and the tension of the moment, and you pressed through it anyway. The surrender, the letting go, and then the press. And I think, hopefully for the rest of us, that's what we'll remember too. After you surrender, it's what happens after that. What do we do after that? So thank you. Thank you, Sister Justina. Mute your. I think what's happening is you're adjusting, and it's queuing your mic and your camera up. So mute yourself for just a second, and then and then now Anne Marie, since she said I can call you that, it should bring you back up. Nope, I don't see you. Keep talking.
I'm speaking. I'm here.
There she is. That beautiful smile. Thank you for the connection. Thank you, and everybody is saying. Kudos, and our God is awesome working the situation. It was so beautiful to see how the pieces of the puzzle or the cross-pollination of all these spiritual gifts.
The cross-pollination.
Come on now. He's a low-key preacher too. Who
said that? Because we can't see the comments.
Savalis Lofton.
Savalis.
Came together for such a powerful forum of ministry. That is so true. That is so true. Thank you, Emily. Appreciate you. We talked about the you are enoughness. And now, just as a wrap up, I'd just like to offer women, I know that some of you popped in on other people's topics and other people's things. Reverend Cherie, we talked about everything except for the last topic, which you and I covered, which was feelings buried alive, never die. And I want to give you an opportunity to speak to that, because that was another one of those topics that people were like, oh my God, y'all got to do something else on this. It started in one place and it took on another life of itself. And listen, the state of where we are right now, that's why I'm so concerned about how we process, because feelings buried alive never die. Whether they're your anger, whether they're racism, whether they're your hurt, whether they're your numbness, whatever, feelings buried alive never die. Reverend Riri?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good to see you.
I wanted to start with one of the exercises that we did, if we could talk about that.
Yes.
It's been helpful for me in dealing with very hard feelings, difficult feelings where I've been really hurt, where you can take yourself, and you did it when we did this, where you take the situation and you set it there, but you pull yourself out of it. You look at it from above the situation, you pull yourself away so that it's not pulling you so hard that you can't see from different perspectives what's going on. And so for me, that's been a very helpful tool in having hard conversations. Feelings can be, you can have a hard conversation and leave something and your feelings be hurt.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you were right in the situation. It just means your feelings are hurt. And it doesn't mean you're wrong, but it's how you feel. It could be, okay, so I'm one of those people who likes to do deep digging on myself.
Yeah.
I just think it makes all of us better people.
Yep.
More aligned with where God would have us to be. And we deal with people, we interact with people differently when we are looking at ourselves. And so as I was looking, I started finding all kinds of stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought I knew that already, or I had one perspective on that. And so one of the things, I didn't share this the other day, but I remember as a little girl, actually this time I wasn't that little. I would think I was middle school. And I was just singing in the car. I mean, I was getting down, in my own opinion. I was singing, I was doing that thing. And my sister said to me, we don't want to hear all that. Like, you're singing too loud. That hurt my feelings. And as much as I know my sister loves me, I have taken that from then, and I don't sing. I sing when I'm not with other people, but I don't sing. And every now and then people will hear me and they'll be like, no, sing. And I'll be like, no. But it's that's been attached all those years. Though I know my sister loves me, that was a sister thing. Like, I had been singing all day and in her ear, but it was something I was finding. I had just joined another choir. Like, I was excited. And so that was one of those things for me that I can like look back and see how I've done something, but I've only done it a little bit. Yeah. Because those were feelings buried alive, and they didn't die. They were just buried, and they were doing their work in so many ways and touching other parts of my life that in no way can I hold her responsible for that. I'm good and grown. So what part of the work am I going to do now that I've identified that? So for me, that was kind of like the woo. Yeah. You let that stop you all these years? Yeah. You better get on it. Now, but that's now. And so being able to take that situation, look at it and see, that's just my sister being my sister. Mm-hmm. That was, she's older than I am. She was being the big sister. Right. With no thought that that was going to have anything to do with anything. You that deeply. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful share. I've shared with you before. Through this whole process, because we do the Women's Release Experience together, which digs deeper into these types of things, we have a whole workbook of exercises that really just works through this thing with, positive psychology and an understanding of faith through spirituality in a general term, so that it's palatable for everybody. We get our own ahas, and I was sharing with her the other day just how true this adage of feelings buried alive never die. I told her when I lived in Iran, my father was in the military. My parents, you know how your parents start putting you in all kinds of things. So music lessons, this, that, ballet, blah, blah, blah. And I love to dance. But at 5 years old, I had a little 5-year-old chunk-a-lunk body. I had a little tummy. I had some chocolate chip thighs. I was just a little chunk-a-lunk. But all the other girls from the other military families, mostly of, non-Hispanic white persuasion, were in our white leotards with our little black, our little bodysuit. And somebody said something to me, and I know this is all I can remember of it, is that it was a teacher, it was somebody in authority over me who said something about how I looked in my, leotard and all of that stuff. And I told my mother I did not want to go back. I didn't want to go back. That's all I can remember about it. But just that wound, it's like that thing, because we're creatives. When creatives are expressing themselves and enjoying fully the gift of expression, and you wound us in that place of openness, in that place of vulnerability and expression and creation, there's something there that will have to be dealt with. Now, we were too young to understand, girl, you need some self-excavation and talk about it. And we didn't know all that, right? We didn't know all that. In fact, the thing was, tough it up. It'll be okay. We won't put you in that situation. Or you make decisions like Cherie did for herself. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. She shut her voice. To this day, I will tell you, we were sitting around not a year ago coming up with a new theme for our church. And we're all sitting in the office. I know she sings. But we're bootlegging, working out the parts. So we got this person doing that, this person doing that. And I'm like, where's the alto? We need the alto. Where's the alto part? She's like, I'm Ricky. And
I'm like, well, you work and sing, because this is what this is right now. And, you know, and she started, but I've known that to be a thing. We can't let the experiences of our past or even our present, y'all, what's happening right now, silence our voices and keep us in a place of being, you know, stuck on pause, because there's too much to do, too much to accomplish, too many assignments still ahead of us to get stuck in any area. So I thank you for sharing that. And for those of you who weren't on with us, the exercise is about, because I shared a very hard story, I didn't want to ask you all to share what feelings buried alive have you not dealt with, right? So I shared with you a very hard truth and testimony of somebody else's. And I asked you to close your eyes. We were breathing through it, because tension holds up in your body. We breathed through it, and we took the situation and put it on a stage, and we floated above it like we were, you know, on a drone. And we looked at it from this point, and then we looked at it. And so you can separate yourself as watching it so you don't relive it. Because I understand, we all understand different things can trigger things that have happened to you that you might, that's what's happening in the country right now. And I wish people would understand, when we hear about Ahmaud Arbery or George Taylor, we're not just thinking about them right then. We're thinking about other things that have happened in the past where nobody heard us. We're thinking about the proverbial knee of America on the neck of Black and brown people. We are thinking about how we are affected in our lives, on our jobs, and in relationships, whose knee is on our neck. So it triggers a whole nother thing, but we have got to have the conversations. And I'm begging people to find somebody trusted that you can process it out with, and be responsible on these platforms and what you're saying and how you're sharing. And if you know you're bleeding on people, just take a pause. Take, like my sister Crestlin, she knew, okay, this pandemic thing, I'm out. I'm gonna go get some spiritual guidance, sit with God, do what you need to do, and then come back. Because listen, y'all, I was so hurt because one of the people I saw spewing on people is a light bearer. I don't think we understand that's going to hurt people worse, because they come to you for the light. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to be sorrowful. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to do all of that. But we're not allowed to spew it all on the people that come to us for the healing. So we gotta pray. We gotta pray about that. Thank you so much, my sister. I love you to life. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for what God's doing in you, next levels by yourself. I'm thankful for what God's going to do with this ministry. I'm just thankful for you, and I love you to life.
Love you.
Ladies, we're going to end this fabulous discussion. Yes, chocolate chip thighs. That's what I said, Neil. Move through it. Move through it. With our own release ceremony, it's what we do as a point of contact. If you all will tell us what you want to release, we understand that, you know, whether it's the vision of, or the adage of laying things at Jesus's feet, or laying things at God's feet, or laying them on the altar, or we send them up like an incense unto God. We can't do anything with this. We are releasing it to you, God, so that you can lead and guide us in next steps. I'm going to ask now that our co-facilitators tell us the one thing you would like to release as a result of being a part of this experience. What's the thing that you're going to release, or you want God to help you release? I'll start with mine. Yesterday I shared the attachment to outcomes. The pandemic has helped me not care about, will this be successful? Will this work? What will people think? Because God said, do it. And I just said, yep, do it. Whatever he said, do it. And I want that to last beyond the pandemic. The thing I'm releasing today is my fear and concern over my mother, who is far from me, and I can't be there. And with the country and state that it's in, my main concern isn't about me. Like, I feel like if I gotta eat, a cup of noodles and water I'll be all right. But I want her to be all right. And so I have to release even that precious thing to God. So that's what I'm releasing. Fear of my mother's care and well-being. What are y'all releasing?
I want to release the need to know, control.
Got it. Okay.
Mine's along the same line as yours, Jeanette. I mentioned to the other ladies earlier, I was traveling to New Orleans this weekend to see about my grandmother. And I've been back and forth doing that for some months now. And so also releasing the care of her life, that she's taken care of, that she's healthy, or, just all those concerns and worries that have been kind of dumped on my shoulders, as far as her care and different things, but just releasing that.
I understand, sis. I do understand. Next.
During the, I think it was the 21st day when we did the first round of these, I included letting go of the good so that I can do the work that God is calling. But a part of that for me is busyness. And God keeps coming back to me with that of I've got to release the busyness because I've been doing too much to be still enough to hear. But the thing that also has come up for me just during this conversation is to release the limiting beliefs that I have.
Yeah.
That I didn't realize I had, but clearly I have.
That's awesome. That's one of my favorite books about good to great, about how good can be the enemy of great. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Christina. Oh, no. Okay, I'll go and then you can finish it off because that'll be better. But look, I'm going to release, and what I've been praying about is, I call it self-minimalization. And it's apologizing in my actions and behaviors for what I can do and playing small. And I need to release that. I need to release that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And as you saw from the reactions, you are not alone. You are not alone. Okay. Alicia, did you add? Do I have everybody? What you doing, boo?
Mine would be, God is challenging me in some new creative areas. And so it's the fear of stepping out in those things and the fear of being judged in those areas that I am not very comfortable in. So. Yeah.
Understood. So what do you as viewers, do I have everybody? So let me make sure. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Reverend.
Stephanie and all of the above. I mean, literally, I feel like you all jumped in my prayer closet and I don't remember inviting you in, but clearly I wouldn't have been able to say all that you said. So thank you. Because literally all of that. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
And for me, I want to release being concerned with other people's perceptions of me.
Amen. I love how Auntie Yana says it. Their thoughts, none of your business. Mm-hmm. Ain't none of your business. Now, the release ceremony is something that we've found that is, because I'm a very visual person and Sheree is too. And there are markers. We are ceremonial people. We like to mark things by, this was the point where I pivoted here. This is the point where this went forward there. And this is the thought went there. So this ceremony is something that we do in our release experience. It is symbolic. Does it mean when I burn this paper that all of a sudden, boom, my fear over, and me and Toya's fear over our, care and concern of our moms, I think. No, but what it means is it is your corresponding action to faith that you are now admitting. Because before we can ever do it, y'all know the circle. Before we can ever do anything about it, we got to face it. We got to admit it. We got to feel it. We got to feel it. You feel these things. We feel it, and then we face them so that God can minister to us about it, and then we can focus in and say, what do I learn? What am I learning about myself by even feeling this way? And we learn about ourselves, and then we learn about the situations. We cast down fear. We eliminate low-level thinking. We do all of those things to get the lesson out of it, and then we surrender. We surrender by trusting that God can work all of this out. And that's what the ceremony is about, the surrender. I'm turning it over to you, God. Now speak, now show, now lead, now guide. So right now, just as a point of contact, everybody touch your screen, just touch the thing. Even those you viewing, even if you didn't mention what your thing was, you hold that in your heart, you hold that in your head, and you can be a part of what we're doing as we move into this part of the ceremony. I'm going to make this full. How can I do this? I think I do it like that. Yep. All right, Reverend Riri, would you mind praying the prayer as I set this up?
Let us pray. Lord, we come to you now and we're grateful. Grateful because of, even in the midst of everything going on in the world, you knew we would need this 21 days. You knew we would need the extension of the 21 days. And so thank you for holding true to your promise that you would never leave us nor forsake us, but that you would walk with us and talk with us and remind us that we're your own. And so we thank you, God, for growing us in this 21 days, for equipping us with tools that we would really be able to release and let it go, that we wouldn't be hard on ourselves for having to let it go again, but knowing that you have us in the palm of your hands. Thank you for showing us the similarities we have with other women, other men, others that are going through the same things, but we're all striving to get to where you've called us. We thank you for helping us to push through isolation and loneliness and discouragement, past hurts and losses. We thank you, God, that even through that, we have received hope. We've received our voices back, new perspectives. We've received the ministry of we are enough, and we can just be in you, knowing that you are still equipping us for this journey. So now, God, we thank you for reminding us that release looks like laughter as a conversation. We thank you, God, for reminding us that release looks different for all of us on different days. But we thank you for giving us what we need to let it go. And so, God, we surrender. We surrender the things that we said. We surrender the things that we probably should have said. We surrender what we don't know we're going to face tomorrow. We surrender it unto you. We're letting it go. Thank you for allowing us to let it go.
Thank you.
In your name we pray.
Yes.
As we let it go. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
For these, my sisters, as we let it go. Thank you.
Into your hand, into your hands, God, into your hands. And God, as you receive those prayers, we thank you that we will have beauty for ashes. We thank you that we will have beauty for ashes. Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you, beautiful women of God, for sharing your time, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your pain, for sharing every aspect of yourself to help other people get free. That's what I'm talking about. It will cost us something, but I believe the scripture that says, God is not unrighteous to forget our labors of love as we minister to people and continue to minister and lay down ourselves for people. So thank you all. I want you all to know that the amens are rolling in the chat room. People are saying thank you. I'm so glad that they honor the gifts that you all are. Thank you, ladies, for being real and helping us surround it all with God. I want to release the feelings of, yes, you have to at sometimes fail in important things, but God, sometimes we fall, you get back up. And we have prayer from our prayerful presence of our brothers who said, thank you and bless your daughters, these mighty women of God. I want you all to know that one of the things that blessed me so much in all this time was that, this started out as the women's release. And then we had a couple of brothers peeking their heads in from time to time, and they were respectful, and they were just like, it's the word. And then it would get good to them, and so then they end up saying a little something here or there, and then they were like, oh, can we play? And I started asking myself, well, you in here now, you've been respectful with this, so I'm gonna let you play. But there is a comment that I want to show you, or I guess I'll just share for for the sake of time. But our brother Savalas that's been popping in said, this journey was such a blessing. I thought it would be just to sit in for a couple of times, but then I found myself waking up and checking my clock to log on. And he's got his laughy face. And then he said, I knew it was for the women, but a lot of the topics had me bubbling over. I couldn't contain myself. Another brother said, just in case you didn't know, this is awesome. This week has been lit. Can I say that? How the Spirit has been flowing is mind-boggling. Every day it gets gooder and gooder and gooder. Thank you for being obedient to the Spirit, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And that is the brothers. And that's why moving forward, the next iteration will be unisex. We just going to come together. We're going to talk about the things that we need to release. Thank you. Continued blessings and love. Savala says, I bow and honor all of you sisters. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. And I can't wait to see what happens next. Ladies, if you have to hop up, I understand. If you can wait in the green room, right in the green room. I'm just going to wrap this up really, really quickly. I love you all. You already know that. More love to come. This has been, I hope you all got all the nuggets from the ministry behind the monitor, that you can see that even those who minister the truth have to walk it out too. We're not exempt. We're not exempt from what we share. And anybody that tells you they're not dealing with something, they're not telling you the truth. Let me just say that right there. What I want you to focus on, I heard the from the green room. It's like the amen corner over here on the side. I love it. So let me just tell you, it's important and imperative. I don't know what you're doing for your lunch break. I don't know if you got to go back to work. I don't know where you are in the scheme of life right now, but I really, 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 really need y'all to show up today. I need y'all to show up today for this conversation at 1:00 Eastern Standard Time, coping in traumatic times. We are going to get into it. And thank you, my sister Cherie, who corrected me when I got all up in my feelings and misspoke my brother's last name. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. These just some of the things that are happening, but all the feelings attached to that and so much more. I'm so excited that we're going to sit down. We're going to talk with Dr. Jamil Rogers from the psychologist out of San Diego, California, and Kenny Anderson, a good friend of mine who is a nationally certified mental health specialist and counselor, and the Reverend Dr. Patrick Claiborne to come in from a spiritual bent. How do we deal with this, not only in our feelings, but in our emotions and our spirit and our soul? So it's an important conversation. I hope you all will share this. I posted the link to the actual broadcast so you can share that. It'll go live on people's pages. It'll go live on your page. But in the meantime, know that God is with you. You are not alone even in this. Even though we feel lonely, we're not alone. We're not alone. And let's eliminate creating pockets of loneliness by not turning on each other. That's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants us talking about stupid stuff and throwing our anger and our frustration and our hurt at each other. Don't do that. Let's stop doing that. And if you see it, y'all don't jump into it and flame it up. If you can de-escalate it, de-escalate it. If you can't, if it's an inbox, do an inbox. If you can't, leave it. It's somebody else's cross to carry. But we will get through this. We will. We absolutely will. And we will get through it together. I love you all to life. Thank you so much for being on this journey. This ends this. But on Friday, tomorrow, the last piece of this journey is what are next steps? What do I do now? We went through the 21 days. I know I have work to do. I see the pockets of things that I need to work on. How do I do that? We're going to sit down. We're going to pull up our psychologists. We're going to pull up a spiritual covering. I'll be there as a coach. We're going to talk to you about how to find a therapist, what to look for, how to vet them. Do you need a therapist? Do you need a coach? What if I need spiritual covering? How do I get plugged in? All of those questions, your questions, those will be entertained as well. So make sure that you tune in Friday. That'll be Friday at 10 a.m. All right. So much to do, but we're going to get it done. I love you all to life. You take good care of yourselves out there, and listen, stay safe. I know a lot of places are open. I know. We're anxious to get back to our lives, but we want a longevity in life. All right. So be safe, be wise. I love you. And I'll see you today at 1:00.